Welcome back to a night session of the Twinbill podcast. Only our second night session, at least that I know of. Welcome back, everybody. Luca alongside me, of course. I am the one, the only, the undisputed champ, Alex.
Who said? Hold on a second. Who elected you champion?
Me.
No. Nobody elected you champion. We got to do it. We're not doing a debate on this either.
Yeah. All right. Whatever. But we have some stuff to talk about. Obviously, it's the All-Star break, so we're going to be talking about some grading / award aspects. We're going to be talking about Juan Soto. Obviously, there's some rumblings there. It's been a big discussion, I know, on Yankees Twitter, but more importantly, it's a discussion on here. And then after that, we'll look at some trade deadline targets, and that will be all. Maybe we'll go into a little bit of the Joe situation, because that we were there for that. We were there for that. So.
Yes,
I want to give a quick shout outs to the chat. JC, Tony, Clark, Hirsch.
What's up, everybody?
Jared, Zach Brownish, Matt Stolk. I think that is all, but also there are other people in the chat currently that maybe either have not subscribed yet, so they won't be able to be in chat, or they're just,
guys, hit that subscribe button. What are you doing?
Yeah. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Comment, do all that good stuff. We respond to the chat. Like always, shouts to LI. 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. That's very important, of course. Try to get in the top 10 with those podcasts. Of course, that many deem better than us, but of course, there's nothing like us at NyynewsTV. But with that being said, Luca, we'll open up the floor with this. First half of the season, your thoughts overall?
First off, I'm going to say we hella overachieved. And I know everybody's going to say, everybody's going to rag, oh, you thought this team was going to be a fourth place team, third place team, all this different things. And you know what? They're right. I thought this team was going to be fourth place, third place. I thought the Red Sox, Rays, and Jays were all going to be better. The Jays making acquisitions like, you say Kikuchi, and, they made their upgrades as well. The Red Sox, I said going into the year, they had a better manager. Same with the Rays than the Yankees. Aaron Boone, I was still very low on. And, we get to the season, and it's been a complete surprise for me. They're playing well above their heads. And, sometimes when you play well above your head, you eventually fall back to earth and you realize what's going on and what the real issues are. That's where where I am at with the Yankees. This is a great team. If you put few more pieces into this team's a World Series contender, definitely. But for right now, I don't see that. And I also will say, people are going to rag on me for this, but I don't care. I don't think Cashman's moves had anything to do with the success of this team. You look at the moves. Okay, you know what, Trevino? Yes, you can say, definitely. Trevino's transformed the pitchers. He's done a very good job. Excellent. All-star caliber. Isaiah Connor for left trade, that was a disaster. That was a complete disaster. You essentially got Ben.
Luca, do you know you're spoiling a little bit of our section, right?
Okay, fine.
I'm not trying to limit you here, but also we gotta leave some.
We'll break it down. I'm just saying none of the moves that were made essentially in the offseason, there were not a lot. We missed out on guys like Robbie Ray and Carlos Rudon. And the shortstops, we missed out on all the shortstops. Corey Seager, Carlos Correa, Marcus Semien. Everybody was talking about Andrelton Simmons, and I'm like, no. So thank God he's with the Cubs, and obviously he's not with the Yankees. We missed on outfielders. We didn't get like a Starling Marte or an Adam Frazier, maybe trade for one, because Frazier was essentially gotten for mid prospects. But overall, the Yankees really didn't make a ton of additions to this team. Like, a ton of top tier, like eye flashing additions. So that again, there are a few holes on this team. We can fix it at the deadline. So we'll get into that eventually.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame a ton of people because I did it myself and I would be hypocritical. for thinking that we were a fourth, third, maybe even second place team, because nobody would have imagined the start we've had. The geeks on Yankees Twitter, the geeks on YouTube, whatever you want to call it, they didn't imagine us in their right mind unless they were saying it for clicks that we were going to be a first place team. I would say about 99.9% of Yankees fans thought we were going to be second place. There were those,
I didn't really see a lot of fans that were winning the division.
No. Some people,
or at least saying that,
saying that as a serious note, but here we are. My first thoughts in the first half, there was definitely a lot of, high spirits. Obviously the pitching staff had its, fine moments, the hitting, fine moments. There were some up and downs, and we're in first place right now. I don't have the record off the top of my head, but with that being said, there's still additions that need to be made because this team ain't perfect, and first place teams aren't always perfect. I mean, you look at the Mets, even though a lot of people don't want comparisons to them, they need a bullpen pitcher. The Astros could definitely use an outfielder. There's a couple of things that, are worth going into that we will go into in the process of this podcast episode. Shouts to a couple more people coming in. Gus, Ra Thompson, Ra. I don't know what to say about your ass getting beaten in MLB The Show yesterday, but you know what?
I got nothing to say either. I'm very disappointed, Ra. I was rooting you on, man. You just let Gary just beat the crap out of you. It was supposed to be a competitive matchup. You had Corbin Burns versus Robbie Ray. Damn.
I mean, I don't know.
I'd say the Brewers are a better team than the Mariners, in my opinion. But the Mariners have been on a hot streak, let me tell you that.
Yeah. So Gus, I think, is pretty much doing the Michael Caputo talk. Caputo isn't here yet, of course, but he's saying that, that Judge probably is going to be a Dodger and Soto is not going to be a Yankee. Of course, we'll get into the Soto stuff. We'll get into all that stuff. But with that being said, we're going to go into our first half season awards.
We didn't do grades. We did awards.
Yeah, we did awards, doing some things that other podcasts aren't doing in terms of, we're not trying to copy anybody because, we're our own podcast.
We don't steal content.
Yeah, we don't steal content. So we're going to go pretty much jump into an obvious one, and we're going to give 1 to 2 answers for each.
Unless we universally agree on something.
Yes, and for like 1 or 2 of them we agree, and I think that's pretty much it. We go into our own separate paths. MVP, I think it's Aaron Judge.
That's kind of an obvious.
Yeah, it is an obvious. He's been the number one difference for this team, because if he wasn't the difference with his team,
or Stanton.
No, I mean, we have to give Stan his props as well, but I think Judge has just done more of an outstanding job. Stan, once again, all-star, but I don't think he would have had to carry, or at least I don't think he would have had the capacity in himself to carry this team long enough if Judge was the one that's, struggling and all this stuff. Basically, if Judge wasn't there, there would be a lot of question marks more foreseeable with this team. But this guy's hit 33, 34 home runs already, and he's just putting on a total MVP season.
He broke a Yankee record, I think, Alex. He broke Roger Maris's record before, like, home runs before the All-Star break. So there's that. But are you done so you could let me get my analysis of the Aaron Judge stuff?
Well, the last thing I'll say is it's just a shame that we're playing hardball with him in extension talks. But go ahead.
Because our owner's a cheap ass. That's why. Our owner's a cheap ass. He doesn't want to spend the money, but that's regardless. A lot, Alex, you witnessed this too. We were at Yankee Stadium, and this was opening day, and we all saw the tweets and said the Yankees could not get a deal with Aaron Judge done before the regular season. And then Brian Cashman comes out and tries to make Aaron Judge and his agents and his party look like the bad guys. So there's that. Put that aside. And everybody's like, you know what? There's going to be a lot of pressure on Aaron Judge. He's going to have to bet on himself, to get this mega contract that he deserves. He's done that.
People were also moving on from Judge.
Yankee fans were turning on Aaron Judge. Can you believe that? Obviously, I'm sure the Yankee fans that were turning on Judge are all in love with him now because, why stick out? But anyway, they'd be stupid if they stuck out and didn't love this guy because he's been a true player this year, obviously. So, Aaron Judge was struggling through the first couple of games, not really finding his mold. And people are like, well, you know what? You could release him in free agency next year, let him go with another team, this, and this, that, and that, and that. And, he just goes on a hot run, and he's been on that hot run for a while now. When did he get hot, Alex? Like the end of April? Mid-April?
I would say around that time period.
Yeah, definitely. So this is, for a guy who bet on himself, you expect this out of him to prove to the front office, I want the money that I deserve. I want $36 million. I want $40 million. I want a fucking blank check. And that's what he's done. Gold glove outfielder, all-star. And I'm telling you right now, if Aaron Judge does not win the MVP and Shohei Ohtani wins it over him, I'm telling you, this is scripted. The MVP race will be scripted, and they will do it purposely for Ohtani because Jeff Passan sucks him off at night. And so does everybody else. I'm telling you, Shohei Ohtani, despite his physical gifts, is the most overrated baseball player in the entire MLB. I don't care who disagrees with me, but the point is Aaron Judge needs to be the MVP, and he will be probably the first MVP since A-Rod back in 2007. But my point is, pay this man his money.
Yeah. So Jason says, I don't necessarily think they were trying to make him look like the bad guy. I think they just wanted the public to know they made a fair and decent offer.
I disagree.
If you're calling that a fair and now I forget the numbers, but
it was like 30 million, right? Like it was in the low range. 30s.
Close to that range. And
I would say 32 million.
Whatever that range, I believe it's in that range, but I don't think that's a fair and decent offer. At the beginning of the season, you could talk about whether it was a fair, decent offer or whatnot. But the guy's shown up the last couple of seasons, and at this point,
don't give me any Aaron Judge haters out there. Do not give me injury-prone excuses because Mike Trout is the exact same thing.
Well, I'm saying to go back to the first part of the season, we were talking about leverage. We were talking about this, that, and the other thing. Leverage. Oh, you built a section for him in Yankee Stadium.
Exactly, right.
He's one of the number one selling jerseys for the Yankees.
He makes you money.
He makes you money and all this stuff, and you're not going to pay him. Now that he bet on himself and they wanted to throw their numbers out there and try to proclaim that they're the good guys, and he's come up and he's done an absolute fine job this season betting on himself. Hopefully he continues that in the second half. Even if he doesn't have as great of a second half as he did the first, that's still, you got to pay the man. You got to pay the man. And you know what?
Absolutely.
It's going to get so trenchy, and that's not even, a word possibly that anyone uses. I'm just using it.
Treacherous.
Treacherous, trenchy, whatever the fuck you want to say. If they let this guy into free agency, then if maybe the Nationals didn't trade Soto yet, if we're in those talks, and it's just going to be a whole mess from there. And what if
you'll be bidding against the Mets? You'll be bidding against the Dodgers. You'll be bidding against the Giants. You don't want to be put in that situation. You don't.
And
that's why you get it. That's why, in my opinion, if you can, you get an extension done before the regular season. But that should have been already done before the season.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree there. I know you guys are biased Yankee fans. How can you say Stanton was the MVP of the All-Star game? It should have been Buxton. He hit the go-ahead homer. I don't look too much into the All-Star game. Great that Stanton won it. I mean, hell, listen, if it was an Orioles player, Tony, I thought you probably would be up in.
Listen, I'm just happy he won it. For the Yankees haven't had a guy who won it since Mariano Rivera back in 2013. Even then, he made 3 outs, and I think it was the 8th or 9th inning, and he closed the game out or did whatever. But that was his final All-Star game. So they gave him the benefit of the doubt. And the last guy before him was Jeter in 2000. So that's that. But I'm just happy he won it. I'm not talking about who deserves it, who doesn't, but I'm just happy Stan won it.
Yeah, Craig, I mean, I don't know that that's something to necessarily look into too much. Some of the things that Judge has said, I just don't look into.
Marley Rivera is a fucking asshole.
I mean,
I'm sorry. Certain people shouldn't be qualified to do certain jobs. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not being sexist, people. I'm all in favor of women, expanding in the broadcasting industry and doing all this other stuff. I'm for it. But I'm saying, how can you possibly put somebody on the spot and say, oh, I didn't mean to put you on the spot? Like, she's so fucking, what's the term I'm looking for here? She's so ditzy for no reason. That's a serious job and a serious question. you're asking about somebody's future with a baseball team. What is he supposed to say, honestly?
Yeah, I mean, I don't look into those. I don't look into.
I didn't look into his quote at all.
Yeah. Fucking fly around me. But Carl also makes a good comment. He says, "Would you want Soto or Judge? You can't have both." That's going to be talked about. That's going to be talked about in this podcast episode. When we get to the Soto topic, that's actually one of the questions. But we're not going to go there yet. Look at Trout though, got all the money and still no ring. Cashman might be smart. But that's the Angels. And I know Luke obviously brought up the Trout thing, but that's the Angels and Judge. You know, we've gotten, and I'm not saying it's Trout's fault, but we've gotten closer with Judge than they have with Trout. And once again, it's not his fault, but you know, certain things are different from certain situations. So we do unanimously agree that for MVP, it should be Aaron Judge.
1 second.
MVP, the team, of course.
Call from mom.
Of course. But I'll get into the next topic as we go on. Sorry for the interruption, of course. Biggest surprise, and Luke will probably hear me on the other side. I'll start with mine. I have two biggest surprises for the Yankees. It's Matt Carpenter and Clay Holmes. Clay Holmes was really good last year for the New York Yankees, and I bit my tongue. I ate my crow on all of that. But I didn't expect him to be this dominant. He arguably should be the closer for the rest of the season. And we could talk about his blow-ups and this and that and whatever. But coming over from the Pirates, I don't think we expected that. I don't think we expected him to be this dominant, you know, in people, idiots comparing him to Mariano, but still he's in that range to be one of the better Yankee relievers, maybe since Mo. Not comparing, of course, but Clay Holmes has had a really dominant year outside of one or two appearances. And Matt Carpenter, which is something I'll give Brian Cashman, which was an under the radar move. When we signed him, I'm like, okay, well, you know, it's a backup thing. It's a minor league contract, whatever the hell it was. I think they said major league contract. I'm like, this guy ain't going to play that much. He's been on fire. Still with an OPS above the ones, and he's hitting around the 360 number. He's contributed in a lot of ways more than other players on this team that are earning more than him. Is he more than a one-year wonder? That's something I can't tell you. But he has been absolutely terrific for this team coming off the bench. And one thing I will say, Luca, and once again, we can't predict the future, but with the possibility, there's always a possibility of things that are, you know, happen in life. With the possibility of, let's just say Gleyber Torres gets moved for a piece, and I know LA Yankee King will like that, and the possibility that maybe DJ stays at second or DJ gets moved, which is probably not going to happen, or DJ does something, whatever. Or maybe even Anthony Rizzo leaves. Matt Carpenter can play first base.
Right.
We were questioning, okay, well, you know, if Rizzo leaves after the season and the Yankees don't pay him, or, you know, he's looking for, you know, a huge pay raise and they don't pay him, he's gone. Carpenter, and I'm not saying he's as good as, you know, Anthony Rizzo, but Carpenter he's
a placeholder. He could hold that down.
He is a placeholder till a guy like Austin Wells or go out in free agency, go get a guy. But Carpenter and Clay Holmes, those two guys have surprised me the most this season.
All right, just want to say, everybody's saying there's a glitch. I apologize. I had to answer an Alexa call. You know, it's in-house, so I didn't want you guys to see me, you know, lip singing or talking while I'm muted, so you think something is wrong. I just had to pick up the phone call. I apologize. So I guess I'm going to go into my biggest surprises. I'm going to go with two here. I'm going to go with Nestor Cortez, and I'm going to go with Gleyber Torres. You know, Nestor Cortez did finally come down to earth in the last couple of weeks, but the way he started was pretty damn elite. Like, you were close to considering him the best pitcher in baseball, like one of the top. But there were a lot of Yankee fans, including myself, that was said Nestor Cortez is the best pitcher in this rotation. Like, him overachieving with Trevino catching him and Matt Blake, you know, handling the coaching, just did wonders for him, and you got to love it.
No, I agree. Gleyber Torres has turned into a possible Gold Glove second baseman. You can't ask for more than that. And we didn't know what to expect coming into this season.
I also have another one.
All right.
After that, LI is going to be a little surprised. This Gleyber Torres, you know, I was a guy that said last year, you know what? We need a catcher. we need a starting pitcher. Ship off Gleyber Torres and somebody else for like a guy like Montas or Sean Manaea. Obviously, you missed out on Manaea, and Montas is still in Oakland. I said Torres and somebody else, maybe a high prospect or whatever it would take, Montas and Murphy. And maybe you could add Ramon Laureano to that mix. He represents a different skill set that Joey Gallo just doesn't have.
Yeah, I forgot. I gaffed a little bit. Apologies, because I thought he brought up Gleyber Torres already. But with that being said, yeah, for both those guys, also Christian Javier is starting for the Astros. I know somebody mentioned it. And someone also said Monty's going to start tomorrow as well. With that being said, as far as Torres goes, as I was going before, Gold Glove second baseman, he's been better at his position than IKF has been at short, which has been, something that I really didn't expect. I didn't know what to expect out of Gleyber. I even said coming into the season, I no expectations whatsoever. Trade piece. If the stock is high, you trade him. As far as Nestor Cortez goes, I came into the season saying that he may not be a starter, that he may not be able to go to the 5-6 inning mark. He's done that a lot of times this season where the team has either given him run support or not given him run support. I just find that completely amazing for the player he is and all that sort of stuff. Called it, motherfuckers. Yep, Li was right. Li was right. So, I give it to Li. He's a Gleyber Torres fan. But as far as Nestor Cortez goes, very surprising. And, he came back down to earth later in the season, or at least the first half, I should say. With that being said, it's still a great story that this guy was, in the minors for several years. He was a good pitcher last year, at least in the situations we put him in. Now you put him in the rotation and more of an expanded role, and he's an all-star. I don't know that you can expect more out of Nestor Cortez in that fashion.
I used to hate Nestor Cortez, by the way. I used to hate him. I was like, you know what, get this guy off my team. Like, what was he with the Yankees in 2019?
Yeah, he was in their minor league system for a long time.
He was with the Orioles. He was with the Mariners, all these different teams, and he comes back, and he's just been dominant. You can't really – he's been dominant. Then he came back down a little further to earth, but, he's done his job. You can't really expect, more. You can't expect this guy to be the next, I don't know, Randy Johnson.
Well put. Luca, I'll have you start with the biggest disappointment.
All right, so the biggest disappointment on my list, two of them actually, Garrett Cole and Isaiah Kiner. Now, you're going to come to me and say, Garrett Cole has good numbers. I'll give you guys the numbers right here. Just give me 1 second. So far, Garrett Cole, Isaiah Kiner, those are my guys who are disappointed. So Garrett Cole in the season, 9-2, 3.02 ERA, 147 strikeouts and 113.1 innings pitched, a .97 whip in 19 games started. So what makes Garrett Cole a disappointment on the list? You read the numbers, you say, oh, wow, he's put up really good numbers this year, almost all-star caliber, almost one of the best in the league. Definitely, sure. You want to say that, fine. But you got to look at closer than that. You got to watch the games that he's pitched. He blew up against the Orioles. He blew up recently against the Red Sox when he was giving up homers to Devers, missing on bad location. If you have to name several blowups for a pitcher in the first half, especially your ace that is being paid $36 million, he's not the ace. I'm sorry. He blew up against Toronto, giving up 2 home runs to Vladdy Jr.?
2-3 home runs.
2-3 home runs to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. The Twins outed, which you were even on Game Season Live for. That was horrible to watch, giving up multiple home runs. What was it, 4 or 5?
5.
5 home runs. Correa, Buxton, whoever.
Did you mention the Tigers won?
Even 3 in a row. The Tigers won. What was it, in Detroit or at home?
In Detroit. He didn't get out of an inning.
Couldn't even get out of an inning, which was ridiculous. You need to expect better from Garrett Cole. As Yankee fans, we need to expect better for someone who's going to be the ace, especially in the playoffs, or at least you hope to be, and who's being paid $36 million. Like, that's where it is. You know what? The numbers look fine, but it's the blow-up starts that we've seen. And it also opening day. I forgot to mention, opening day was a blow-up start. Obviously, he pitched through it, but I didn't like the excuse that he made. Oh, it wasn't game time. The game was delayed, whatever. Who cares? Who cares? So moving on to the next one, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. And now I'll tell you why I point him as a disappointment. That is because he has committed, 14 errors this year at shortstop. It's been horrible. Everybody came over here. The Kiner-Falefa trade happens, right? He's this versatile infielder. He can play catcher as an emergency, third base, shortstop, second base, whatever. All these fielding metrics, all this different stuff. And, I didn't expect him to hit 300. I didn't expect that at all. Everybody else was being put out there, he's going to hit 300, but he's a soft contact single hitter. That's what I've always said. That's what I've always said about IKF, and I will continue to say that to this day. I don't like soft contact guys. I like guys who hit for hard contact and get on base. But what makes IKF disappointing is the fielding metrics. The fourth worst, what is it, in F4, he's the fourth worst shortstop in all of baseball. And you expected this to be the fielding savant at shortstop. Remember, we were all talking about how bad Gleyber Torres was, right? And how bad he should never be at shortstop again. So we got Kiner-Falefa to absolve that problem, to move Gleyber Torres to second base. We did that. And now Kiner-Falefa seems to be worse. That's where I find him disappointing, the fielding aspect.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect him to be this, great hitter. I did a little bit because I said at the beginning of the season he could be a leadoff guy. I was dead fucking wrong about that, and I will admit that. Also, I don't know if you mentioned it, his fielding percentage isn't very good. I think it's one of the worst among MLB shortstops. So obviously the stats and even just looking at the game tape, even though that's still more of a football thing, that will tell you that he hasn't been a good shortstop. As far as Garrett Cole goes, in terms of a disappointment, I could agree with you. And I know a lot of people are going to take that, well, this, that, and the other thing, whatever. I'll get to the Homer question for Tony in a second because I'm gonna go into that a little bit. But with your ace, quote ace, you're supposed to be sure that he's supposed to go into these games against the guys like the Blue Jays, guys against the Red Sox, away games, home games, whatever, and you're supposed to be confident that he's going to come out with 6 innings, 7 innings, whatever. He's going to do really well in the start, and we haven't necessarily been sure. And he's had his fine starts. I think he pitched very well against the Reds. We were doing game season for that. He pitched well. I believe it was against the Rays, against the Tigers in that big blowout game. He pitched very well. So he's pitched well in games. We're not saying that, but you have to be sure with an ace that he could go into these big games and pitch well.
I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what anybody else says. I'm still kind of worried about him in the playoffs. I was arguing with morons on Twitter, the hoodies and all these different things. Garrett Cole has a 2.92 ERA in the playoffs. Garrett Cole also was pitching on a bad hamstring. Okay, if he decides to pitch on a bad hamstring, he better pitch damn well. I'm not saying, obviously hamstring is a very lingering injury, but he just shit the fucking bed in the wild card, man. Like, you don't expect that. If you're I'm going to call it game managing, like how they do it in the NFL. You don't expect it. If he's pitching on a hamstring, we knew about it. You don't expect him to be perfect, I guess you could say. But you know what? Get the job done. And it doesn't, let me just say, I'm not defending Cole here. It doesn't help that lineup was completely shut down besides Anthony Rizzo and Giancarlo Stanton.
All right, I'll put it up here. Jason says it's a little hard to he doesn't hear me very well, so I'll put my mic up here. Hirsch says, where is Alex's big bad brother Brad? Haha. I don't know, man. I mean, he's usually here busting my chops. I mean, figure that it's the All-Star break. I would think he would be here at a nighttime podcast, but I guess not for right now. As far as the IKF thing, no, he has not hit a home run. By the way, go get a pleasure over power tea. Obviously, actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, that quote was made on a nighttime podcast. That was the last.
It was. You're right.
So, basically, if any of you guys want some background, a few podcasts ago when we were doing a nighttime podcast, it was a Wednesday afternoon game, I believe. It was really weird. Basically, what I said was, I think I'm going to lose my virginity before IKF hits a home run. And then I debated with myself. I said, do I really want that to happen? Because I want IKF to do well, but pleasure over power. And that's how we obviously got the famous.
Still hasn't hit one, folks.
No, he
As
still
Alex
hasn't.
relayed.
And, the virginity race is still going. So pleasure over power. Let's, I'll leave it at that. But if you want to, I haven't revealed my biggest disappointments yet. So for me, it's going to be Josh Donaldson and Jonathan Loaisiga. I'm going to start with Loaisiga first. And I know I was going to say L.I. Yankee King is going to be, just agreeing with me about Josh Donaldson because he hates Josh Donaldson. Like I've never seen anyone more than L.I. Yankee King hate Josh Donaldson. I'll start with Jonathan Loaisiga, though. I think he's been very disappointing. Yeah, the injury. And his first day back, he was very, very
shaky,
very tense, very shaky,
rattled.
Those are some nice words.
Well, here's the thing. You kind of expect that when you're throwing a guy back into a big situation. What was the game tied 1-1 at that point? It was. So the game was tied at 1-1. You're throwing this guy back in for his first relief appearance back. They kind of put him in a spot to fail, in my opinion, as from what I saw. I'm not saying he couldn't have done better. He could have done better, but it's almost kind of expected,
Yeah, I mean, they haven't had necessarily a role for him, when he was injured or even the beginning of the season. I just felt like he's been a major disappointment, whether it's the injury or not. And sometimes you have to make verdicts without even saying, this, and this. That's why I say he's one of the bigger disappointments, because we said in the beginning of the year, this guy's going to be one of the best out of our bullpen. Possibly, Luca, we even said closer.
Yes.
A lot of people said that. And up to this point, we've been wrong. And hopefully in the second half, he turns it around and we don't have a 1-year wonder.
Anything to cancel out Chapman pitching or any chance of that in any important game.
Tyler's right. IK Def. Yes. I
thought you called him IK Def. As in deaf, you can't hear.
No, I called him IK Def. That's been my name for him. I don't know if it's, anyone's come up with it before, but Carl Torchia says, I don't agree with everything you guys are saying, but you guys are doing a really good job. Thank you very much, Carl.
Listen, you don't have to agree with everything you say, everything we say. As long as we respect it, we can have a good discussion about it.
Yeah. Also, guys, get those likes up. We got about 50 in here, and we got 33 likes. Get those likes up. Fritz says, Yankees Nation and Toy Collectors World coming together right now. 2 hobbies of mine. San Diego Comic-Con, some leaks, and bang. 3 parallel chats where people are going crazy. Love the madness. Hirsch says, if we don't have Judge or Soto on the roster next season, that would be a colossal failure of epic proportions, because you have guys in their prime.
It would.
Yeah. There's no reason we shouldn't get Soto. There's reasons, but once again, we're going to leave that for its own topic. Yankees need to get Castillo instead of Soto. Can't count on a reliever like Chapman. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, they have this problem of having a lot of relievers, and they haven't actually done any.
They haven't panned out. Lucas Lidge was solid last year. He hasn't panned out. Miguel Castro's been inconsistent.
He's not going to pitch baseball for a few weeks.
Aroldis Chapman is just withered and died. He's pretty much on his. It's almost like he's on his last legs.
Yeah. So overall, Loaisiga just hasn't been the guy. Josh Donaldson, I expected more out of. He had a 247 average last year, I believe, and he had, I don't know how many home runs on count, but he's had 10-ish at this point. He heated up in Boston a little bit, but he overall just hasn't been a consistent player. Yes, third base. Okay, the defense, right? But Gio Urshela was more productive offensively. And we could go on 1,000 times in the offseason how we could have the left side of the Twins infield. But Josh Donaldson, for $25 million to provide only defense, is a little bit absurd, and it's excessive.
It tells you that I said this from the beginning. I said, Urshela might be. I said Urshela is better defensively. I think the metrics support that. Josh Donaldson's a better fielder, but Urshela, I think, was a better fit for this lineup. I definitely would still say that, and that's why I still regret trading Gio Urshela just a little bit. He's the only player in that trade I regret trading.
Yeah, so we got about almost 60 in here, guys. Get those likes up, please.
Come on, folks.
All right, so now we move on to the player that performed the way we expected. Luca, I'll let you go first.
I said player we're talking about right now, Josh Donaldson. The reason is he is 36 years old and he's on his, I'm not going to say he's on his last legs, but you know what? He's over the hill. He's not all-star A's form. He's not all-star J's form. We're not to expect that. So that's pretty much even Atlanta Braves form as well. But he just hasn't been that guy, to give that boost of power. Even I expect his average to be better. But overall, I think, that obviously we'll talk about the trade. That was horrible, in my opinion. But overall, Donaldson's aging. He's 36 years old. What are you going to expect? You can't expect miracles out of a 36-year-old. Not saying he's going to become this, not saying I was expecting this all-star, but you know what? 36 years old and playing third base, being as towards the end of your prime is just, it's expected.
Not a good recipe.
Right.
So Carl says with Urshela, you got more for your money. Yeah. No, that's perfectly
We
fine.
have to take on a contract too, which sucks. $25 million for the next 2 years.
Just to get rid of Gary Sanchez, it seems, and get somewhat of a shortstop. Player that performed the way you expected from me. I'm going to go Aaron Hicks. Lucas said,
Alex, didn't you believe in his hot run before?
Oh, yeah. I totally believe in his hot run. But that all got ruined once he got injured. Luca thought he was going to play 100 games this year.
I said 100. I said as trolling. You guys can look at the clip. NYY News season preview. I said 2 bold predictions. The Astros were going to win the division, and they are doing so right now, and they might as well walk away with it unless Seattle comes back. But I also said, as a joking troll, that Aaron Hicks was going to play over 100 games. And so far, that might be filled.
I think he's played over 75%. Let's take a look. Live lookup. Aaron Hicks has played a total of 79 games this season. So congratulations, Luca. You've made a prediction that nobody has liked. And you're right about that, almost, right, unfortunately. But Aaron Hicks, I had no expectations coming into the season. I thought we needed an outfielder. I was a big campaigner for Seiya Suzuki in the offseason.
Also, Starling Marte.
I was a campaigner.
He was an all-star, by the way. We could have had that.
I campaigned for Adam Frazier because he was traded once, and then he was traded again.
Also, Brian Reynolds, but obviously that wasn't realistic.
Yeah, so Aaron Hicks has played the way I expect him to play. Hot streak a little bit, but I think he's going to go back to the way he opened the season. Not obviously in the good way, but I'm saying in the bad way in the second half. I think he'll
hopefully in the second half he's a fourth outfielder. Just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, that also comes with the right management, not putting him out there more than he should be. Right. Luca, if you want to go into the next award.
All right, so let's go into our next award on our little thing. Worst move of the offseason. It could be a non-move. It could be a move. Transaction, non-transaction. So I'm going to go first. I'm going to say, as I said before, I nearly spoiled it, according to Alex, the IKF Donaldson trade. So the Yankees essentially sent Gary Sanchez and Gio Urshela to the Minnesota Twins for captured Ben Rorvet, shortstop Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who was already traded by the Texas Rangers to the Twins, and Josh Donaldson to take on that contract, $25 million over the next 2 years, not combined though, $25 million in each year. So you go through the trade. Gary Sanchez, obviously, I was super happy to get rid of him. I'll be honest. I was super happy when this trade happened. And then I looked further into it in the details. I'm like, we'll see. Because we missed out on Correa. Essentially, that trade's like an L to double L. We got Donaldson, IKF, who are basically disappointments to most, or some. Well, it should be most, by the way. And you essentially opened up the the room for Carlos Correa to go to Minnesota. We could have essentially had him and Gio Urshela at third base. As we said, we could have had the Twins left side of the infield. So you have that. Rorvet has not played a game, and he's basically MIA. He's somewhere down in the minors. We have no idea where the hell he is. The only win out of that entire trade is getting Gary Sanchez off this team. That's it. And that's like a minor win. Sure, he's sucking in Minnesota, but what did you get out of it? You got nothing.
I agree. I completely agree there. Pete says NYY News TV will be at Somerset for the Patriots game this Sunday. Come out and say hi if you can. Yes, that is true.
Especially guys in the New York, New Jersey area, tri-state area. Come out.
Yeah. Tickets aren't, Yankee Stadium where it's $125,000 just to sit in the upper deck. Of course, I'm joking about that, but to be real, yes, they're cheaper. They're about $15 probably. I mean, I've never been to Somerset before. Looking forward to the experience, of course. Maybe meeting new people. There's gonna be other podcasters.
Seeing there, Anthony Volpe there.
Yeah.
And Austin Wells.
Yeah, but we're the best podcast that's gonna be there. You guys know that. So hopefully some of you guys can come out and obviously, what was I gonna say? Once again, come out and see us again. With that being said, though, to your point about this whole trade and whatnot, no, I completely agree. Getting Gary Sanchez off this team was a plus because it made room for Trevino. I don't think that banking on Rordvet, to be fair, was going to work out.
Oh, I don't think it was either.
Yeah. The Donaldson thing kind of puzzled me at first, but I'm like, maybe offensive upside, but then obviously he's been a disappointment to this point. IKF, you could say the same thing on the defensive side. And then giving up Urshela, I mean, that's just been, it's been a little bit of a bummer to this point. Now, I do agree with you on the unanimous aspect that this is probably the worst trade. With that being said,
I thought you would say, oh, that's right. You were going to say non-move.
As a non-move, I would say keeping Chapman. You guys could probably go with other stuff about Gallo and Hicks and stuff like that.
Remember, the
Gallo actually could be a second in terms of a non-move, because I never believed in Joey Gallo. Even before I knew about his tick, I didn't believe in him. I didn't think he was ever going to work out for this team.
He wasn't a fit, and he still isn't a fit.
I was waiting for him to prove me wrong. Unfortunately, it did not happen. But yeah, that's unfortunately it just hasn't.
And there were
happened.
Teams that were interested. You had the Padres and the Brewers that were interested.
So he was a second. But first, maybe even I'll flip them. But keeping Chapman also wasn't the best move as well, because $18 million, you could have traded that to someone who's an up-and-coming contender that needs bullpen help. The Phillies probably could have taken it on because Dombrowski's a fucking idiot. He doesn't know how to build a bullpen. Let somebody else deal with him. But there was a couple other teams that probably could have been. If you had people in for Joey Gallo after the season he had, you probably would have had anybody in for Aroldis Chapman taking on the 18 mil or splitting it 9 mil, whatever. But you had young guys. There was a ton of guys, before the season we were hyped up about. Oh, well, possibly Maranachio makes it. Oh, Steven Riotings, Clark Schmidt, those guys in the bullpen. And then we got Loizaga and Clay Holmes as a setup and closer guys. I mean, you still have those young guys. But the problem is with guys like Britton possibly coming back and Herman, you don't know what to do with these guys that necessarily haven't proven to be good in the big time the last few years. So that's kind of where I say, okay, yes, Joey Gallo, keeping him as a bad move, also rolled as Chapman as well. So yeah, Jason says can't make it Sunday. I'll be working Elton John concert Saturday and trying to not die from the heat on Sunday.
God, it's gonna be awful.
Have a good time at the Elton John concert, Jason.
Meaning
Jason's
the Heat.
Also a supporter of my channel.
I'm saying the Heat's gonna be awful.
No, it's gonna be a bad. But hopefully some of you guys can come out and we get to meet you guys again. Obviously, it's like $15 per ticket. We don't even know where we're sitting, but hey, listen, you know what? If it means hanging out with you guys for a little bit, pregame, postgame, whatever, we'll be down to do it, and we're still down to do it. Now we get into more of a positive before we go back to the negative. The best move, and I think we're unanimous on this.
The one, the only, Gran Trevino. Jose Trevino, me and Alex selected as the best move of the offseason, or you want to call it before the season. It was like right before the season, right? Just like a day or a few days before. Essentially, The Yankees gave up, I think, 2 prospects, right? One of them was Albert Abreu, if I'm correct. And he's back with the team right now, actually, which is kind of funny. So Trevino, we didn't expect much of a bat. We were told how this guy's great defensively, all these framing stuff, better than Gary Sanchez, all this different stuff. So you know what? And this is like one of those things where fans tell me about a certain guy that, you know what? They proved themselves right. They did. Trevino's been excellent with the pitching core, framing, calling a game, as simple as that. And the bat's been a plus as well. We expected, with Rorvet and Higashioka, let's just say that, minus Trevino for about a few seconds. And Rorvet was this great framer, I think, as well. We were looking at a very low hitting catcher position overall when you get Rorvet and Kyle Higashioka. And you said, the strength will be their defense and their framing. Trevino comes along. That's just going to add to the strength of the defense and the framing. The offense, Trevino isn't really a high average hitter. What's he hitting right now? 250 something?
251.
Definitely better than you expected. Same with the home runs. He's had a little pop. He's what? How many home runs, Alex? Do you have the stats right there?
Total of 7 home runs.
7 home runs. And he's been better than Gary Sanchez. He's been more leveled. He's not striking out a lot. He still pisses me off when he chases the high pitches, but he's been very leveled. He's getting on base. He's getting some clutch hits. He's doing his thing. You know what? Obviously said the pop was a bonus, but what he's supposed to succeed in, the defense and the framing, he's done that. And you got to give him all the props. The pitching staff doing what they did earlier in the season. That's not happening with Kyle Higashioka or Gary Sanchez because they don't know how to call a game like Trevino.
Yeah, everything that he's been brought here to do, he's done it. And we could say that for only a few of the players that have been brought over here the last few years. Trevino has been a godsend. And people were crying in the offseason about Gary Sanchez and what move did you want Brian Cashman to make was one of the things I just ranted on. I remember specifically because we were streaming the Knicks Nets game on my channel, Big Blue in the BRONX, if you haven't already sub up, by the way. But in November, when they accepted the tender on Gary Sanchez that made him, on the Yankees for another year.
Yeah, they tendered him.
Why the fuck are we doing this? Go out and trade for Contreras, go out and trade for Stallings, do whatever.
Sean Murphy.
There was a couple other guys out there. And people were like, well, what other move did you want them to make? Well, fucking make a move. Fucking improvise. And, it came to be, obviously, at the end of last year that pitchers didn't want to throw to Gary Sanchez, about 3/5 of the staff. And, it's a godsend blessing that the pitching was as good as it was last year with a guy like fucking Gary Sanchez behind the plate. And then you come to this year, you get Trevino, who's done great, all-star. I mean, this is one of those moves that Cashman, I will praise him for.
So it's one of those
in the roughs.
Exactly. It's one of those moves that we just like, okay, he just made something out of nothing, just like Clay Holmes, just like, eventually we'll get to Matt Carpenter.
Carpenter is one of those guys. He's a close second. I brought this up earlier as one of the most surprising. Carpenter, I thought he was just going to be major league contract, bench, whatever. He's been excellent. I think
Carpenter was more of an in-season. Obviously, Carpenter was more of an in-season acquisition. He doesn't just give you pop off the bench. He gives you a ton of good at bats, fouling pitches off, taking the good pitches. I think he has very good, awareness skills, good batter's eye. Knowing when to take pitches, knowing when not to take pitches, when to foul pitches off. Very smart. But obviously, that's Alex said, close second. But this was more of an in-season move.
Yeah, no, definitely agree there. We can agree unanimously, and we will agree unanimously on the next one. Most overrated. Luca, if you want to take that one.
All right, so I'm going to look at the most overrated. I think another unanimous agreement.
Yeah, that's correct.
Garrett Cole. It is a knock on him, kind of. But it's just, a lot of people, listen, he's your $36 million ace, as I described before. You're expecting to play a lot better. But, a lot of people are seeing at least overlooking the struggles that he's had this year against the Red Sox, against the Jays, against the Orioles, all these different teams and these little blowups. Garrett Cole, as you said, against the Tigers, could not get it out. Twins, multiple homers. You can't have that many. I'm not saying he has to go out there and pitch like, I don't know, prime Pedro or prime Greg Maddux. But if you have to count all these blowups and you could count them on both of your hands or at least one of your hands, that's not great. It's a lot of, again, A lot of people tend to overrate him because of past success in Houston and in Pittsburgh as well. But I'm just saying, I still have a little fear for Cole. I hope he pitches a better second half. I'm a little nervous about him in the playoffs, especially even I remarked this right after he gave up the home runs to Devers.
Yeah, and I think he gets in his own head, which is one of the worst things you can do as a ball player. It's not just the physical attributes; it's just how you can handle it mentally. And people saying, "Oh, well, he was hurt by the fans in Boston, or he was bothered by the fans that bothered him." Like, no, it didn't. He got into his own head after he gave the home run and all that stuff. Like, Brendan Cuddy, you're an idiot. That's not what happened, because if that's what happened, I don't know that you should be pitching in a high market like New York, or even against a team like Boston. But he gets in his own head. It's not good. And I'm repeating a point from before. Whether you talk about the good starts, the bad starts, whatever, for $36 million, you have to be sure that he's going to go into a game against a rival or a very good team in your league. And you have to be sure he's going to pitch a really good game. And so far, we're either on the edge of our seat or we're laid back, and the opposite happens. We're laid back and he shits the bed, or on the edge of our seat and he pitches really well. That type of bipolar pitching behavior cannot come in the playoffs. We may bypass, let's just say Boston gets the second spot and we face them in the ALDS game 1. We may bypass them because, for example, Chris Sale's out, but Garrett Cole, the Yankees will have a higher seed than them. The Yankees will have a higher seed, which means Boston has to come to us. And Garrett Cole, other than opening day, has been good with that this season. Now, if we're talking about Houston, of course, in playoff time, we don't know how he's going to react. So the fact that we don't know is more of the overrated part, where fans are going out here and saying, "Oh, he's pitching to this ERA and
listen,
this and whatever."
That's into what you're saying, Alex, to add on. They're making the unknown the known. They're like, "Oh, he could definitely pitch in the playoffs. Oh, this, and this." But I'm just still concerned. That Boston game still haunts me. And the starts from this year still haunt me. Obviously, regular season and playoffs are two completely different things, but he needs to come up big time in order to give me a lot of confidence.
Yeah. That's pretty much all you can ask for. You need to know, and it's an unknown right now for $36 million. Most underrated. Luca, if you want to take your candidate.
All right. So the most underrated on this team, in my opinion, I'm going to say this. He's going to have a big second half. Although he's hitting around 270, not a lot of people like that. Some people say you should hit 280, 290, 300. This guy won the batting title in 2020, even though I consider that a fake season, in my opinion. I'm going DJ LeMahieu. I seriously think he's having a solid season. He's not having a great season. He's not having, a spectacular season, a terrible season. You could all do those things, describe with those words, but I really think he's going to have a big second half, Alex. I really do. When he gets that contact bat in the lineup right next to him, LeMahieu, let's just say Benintendi right next to him, it just helps him get better. It takes the pressure off him to get on, obviously, it takes the pressure off of him so he can get on base, do the things that he needs to do.
Yeah, the more pieces you put
little less weight to carry, in my opinion. Obviously, I wouldn't say he's carrying the team, but I think he's trying to overcarry his weight.
You think basically what you're trying to say is you think he's trying to do too much?
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes I could definitely smell it, but also continue for him. He's done this all season. Continue hitting to all fields.
DJ is doing so much better than people think. Pete says almost 800 OPS and 400 on base percentage, hitting 279. If he gets in the 280, 290 range and keeps up the production he's been having in some of these games, hell, you know what? That's a player I'll take, because obviously everybody thinks nowadays you could build a team full of Juan Sotos. You can't. And people are saying, "Oh, well, DJ LeMahieu's not himself from a few seasons ago." I think he's trying to come up from that. Have I been happy with his play 100% of the season? I would be lying.
Let me say this.
I was.
The fact that a bad DJ LeMahieu is hitting 260, like the bad version of LeMahieu would hit 260, is ridiculous in a good way. Because you expect this guy obviously at 300, 310, at his highest, at his lowest 260. That's not bad, especially for a contact bat in lineup that we so desperately need. That's just my opinion on it. He's obviously having a solid season. I think he's going to be better in the second half. Once he gets that bat in there, a little less pressure comes off him.
I agree. I'm going to be frank. I'm going to be surprising with my next guy, and it's most underrated, of course. That guy being Ron Maranachio. Obviously, one of the higher rated guys in the Yankees system. He did struggle to start, but ever since he's come back up, he's been really good for the Yankees. I'm going to try to look up the stats right now, but here are his stats on the season. 1-0, 2.33 ERA, 17 games, 19.1 innings pitched. Total of 5 earned runs given up, 7 hits, 23 strikeouts, and 10 walks. I feel like I trust this guy more than a lot of the guys in the bullpen right now. And it's tough to say that in a good way because you really can't say it in a good way. But this guy's just been straight dominant in a lot of his relief appearances. And the fact that he's been better than some of the guys that earn more than him are crazy in terms of surprising, in terms of underrated. And what we're looking at, ladies and gentlemen, next year with Chapman and a lot of these pitchers off the books, there's going to be an open competition besides some of the setup roles and the middle relief roles. Look for Maranachio to up his game and compete there.
I think he'll be a middle reliever.
Yeah.
He's not going to be that long guy anymore.
No, I don't think he should be. But in that situation, you could thank Matt Blake and you could thank the Yankee system. He went down. He got sent down for struggling in games he shouldn't have. He came back up and he upped his game. Matt Blake, whoever helped him involved, including himself. So Ralph Macchio, Ron Maranachio, he's getting a relief appearance or whatever appearance sometime soon in a rehab start. He is one of the guys I'm looking forward to have back as a Yankees reliever. Shouts to David Douglas. What's going on? Luca, if you want to take us in the next part, unless you have any thoughts on Maranachio.
Yeah, I think he's pitched really well. Obviously, it's as you said, it's kind of sad to say that he's overperformed some of these pitchers like the Castros, the Lidkeys, the Chapmans, whatever. So here is the meat and potatoes of the episode: the Juan Soto sweepstakes. Obviously,
I have one thing to say. Guess what his opposing batting average is?
Maranachio. I couldn't guess.
Guess one.
215.
108.
Nice.
Love me some Ralph Macchio, but Luca, if you want to take us into one of the bigger topics.
So the sweepstakes are in, folks. Juan Soto is the most pursued asset on the trade market as of right now. Nationals right fielder specifically, or outfielders, you could say. Recently, he rejected a 14-year, $440 million contract for extension from the Nationals. Now, he's done that. Now, reports came after that the Nationals were expected to trade him. So there it is, folks. The Mets have called, the Yankees have called, the Dodgers are going to call, all these different teams, including the Giants as well. We expect these teams, obviously he's going to garner a very big return, from whatever team trades for him. So what's petty, I found this morning, the Nationals rejected to fly him out to L.A. So how about that? First of all, give me your thoughts, Alex. Give me your opening thoughts on Juan Soto.
I mean, he's a hell of a baseball player. A little bit of an underrated, or I should say underestimated kind of response for myself. Understatement. That's the right word I wanted to look at. It's kind of an understatement, but he's a hell of a baseball player. He's an all-star for a reason. He's doing, all the things you ask him to be. And he's the bright spot of the Washington Nationals right now. And what the Nationals are doing to him, it's not a very good thing because he right now is making them relevant. You take him off that team, who's the one they're looking at? A Steven Strasburg? Is that the guy they're looking at?
That is a horrible contract. That and Corbin.
Steven Strasburg, is that who people are looking at to save them? A 1-year contract of Nelson Cruz? So I understand they're
Josh Bell too.
Josh Bell, who might be traded as well to another team. Maybe the Red Sox pick up on him because they probably need a first baseman. Bobby Dahlbeck has been okay this season. More of a power bat, not really hitting for average. But if they want to contend more, Josh Bell could be a good pickup for the Red Sox. This ain't a Red Sox show, though. However, let's get back to the point. I know they're in a very bad situation. Basically, looks like 2019 was an anomaly, in Luca's words. But it's just tough for the Nationals. Like, why are they being petty to him when he's the franchise player? Paying the most money, they probably have a good future in the minor leagues. I mean, Pete probably knows more than I do, I should say. But if you got a good future up and you keep Soto on the team because he's one of the better players in baseball, hell, why not? But the Nationals are choosing to be one of the cheap teams in the major leagues. And, in Washington, D.C., it's not like they're Kansas City or Arizona. They're Washington, D.C. They're expected to have more money and more revenue coming in than a team like Kansas City or any of these other teams. But it's going to be interesting who finally takes up Juan Soto now that it's, it seemed more official than ever that he's going to get traded. And it's going to be an interesting discussion to move forward, especially on this podcast.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to go into more facts. His accolades so far: World Series champion back in 2019, the home run derby winner this past All-Star break, really. Two-time All-Star, 21, and 22. Two-time All-MLB first team last year and the year before. Two-time Silver Slugger, All-MLB second team also in 2019. So the next question is, this is also a meat and potatoes question. Can the Yankees pay Aaron Judge and Juan Soto all together? You're talking about big money there, pal.
Okay. I don't know. I'm sorry if I raped anybody in the ears with the blowing on the microphone. However, realistically, if we're looking at the way Cashman and Steinbrenner operate, it's not going to happen in terms of paying both. If Judge, for some reason, pisses them off more than he has, and I'm not saying it's Judge's fault because, well, they're playing hardball with Judge for no reason, the extension talks. If he walks in free agency, and at this point in the game, I don't think you could bank on whether Judge walks in free agency. I think you just have to anticipate some stuff. If you get Soto and you know that he's going to be looking for a contract extension within the 35-40 million dollar range, and you don't think you can pay Judge, then you at that point have to let Judge go. But the problem that comes with that is most of that garnered money, and I'm being realistic here, I'm not trying to be a Yankee homer, this, that, and the other thing, but most of that money that's coming off the books is going to go towards Soto. And with the Yankees approach of certain things that they have in the last couple of years, you don't know how many players they're going to get. And you don't know how many players are going to rely on the farm system to do. But also that comes with the question, and we'll get into it later on, what would you have to give up for a Juan Soto? Would the Yankees make the deal? Of course, is going to be another question. Would we make the deal? But it's an interesting situation just to cap it off there.
Yeah, definitely. You're going to be, if you look at the situation, you look at what their value is in the market. Let's just say Judge is $36 million, 8 years. You could do the math on that. It's probably upwards of 200, 300 million.
I'll say this.
Okay.
If the Yankees somehow wind up with Soto, one of the teams that will be contending for Soto and that doesn't get him will get Judge.
Oh, that's definitely. You think of the Dodgers, you think of the Giants, you think of the Mets, definitely. And, comparing the Judge and the Soto contract situations, I think they'll garner together about upwards of $700 million. And that is a shit ton to pay. Again, I'm not against paying both. I'm absolutely for paying both. That would be absolutely ideal. I just don't see it realistically with the people we have in charge. That's how I see it. As you said, you made a great point. You said, if we get Soto and the Yankees decide to let go of Judge, whoever missed out on Soto at the deadline is going to go for Aaron Judge, and there will be a hell of a bidding war.
I agree. You want to jump on to the next question?
So the next question for this is, how much of the farm would you have to give up? Now, I'm sure I read this Instagram post. Well, not the post, the comment. It was under a Yankee Juan Soto post. Somebody's like, how about this? Volpe and Dominguez are off the table. Can you explain to me how that deal gets done now?
It doesn't.
The Nationals are rebuilding. They will be starting to rebuild soon. or at least are in the process of it. They need prospects. They need some MLB-ready players. Gleyber Torres maybe is brought up. I don't know. And maybe you could just bring up like a guy like Peraza or Volpe. Again, it depends who's traded, who's not traded. So you'll look at that. Give up how many, well, first of all, let's just say top 10 prospects, guaranteed. How many are you giving up, Alex? And if you want to look up the Yankees top 10 prospects, go right ahead. Obviously, Volpe and Dominguez are in that,
Austin Wells,
Austin Wells too, and Ken Waldichuk. How many are you giving up to suffice? And are you offering to take on the contract of Patrick Corbin? I say no. Because Corbin's been shit.
There's no doubt Corbin's been shit. I mean, I thought he was going to be good. For the first 2 years, he was good in Washington. Next 2 years, he was shit.
I was the guy who wanted Corbin how many years ago, but the Yankees didn't want to go the longer year. It was 1 year that they didn't want to add on.
Yeah, and they happen to be one of the better ones for it. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. Taking on the Patrick Corbin contract, in my opinion, would be a stinger. Obviously, I differentiate from other people, on our team with opinions like that. Because if they said, look, we'll give you Soto, we want a package, though, and we're going to throw in Patrick Corbin in his terrible contract, I would retract like maybe one or two of my top prospects. Because that's a lot of money to take on for a pitcher that hasn't been up to his performance the last few years. So there's that. On a regular basis, how many prospects would I give up in the top 10? I would say 2 to 3. I mean, people go back and
you think that will be enough?
I'll go.
I say 4 or 5 at the max.
Okay. I'll go more onto your point then. But people have to realize, prospects are potential. We've been talking about it.
It's potential versus reality. Juan Soto is a superstar baseball player. Jason Dominguez is projected as a superstar baseball player. Anthony Volpe is projected as a superstar player. Projections, predictions versus reality. If you want to win a World Series, well, should I say that? If you want to win a World Series and if you want to get closer to winning, Juan Soto is the guy. Stop with these prospect hugging bullshits, okay? Alex keeps mentioning this, on Twitter, on comments, on stuff like this. The Yankee fans were so hell-bent on going after Joey Gallo and giving up whatever the frick had to be done. But we can't give up prospects for Soto, for Luis Castillo, for Benintendi, if you have to, which we probably don't. Let's not be hell-bent, people. Let's give up what we have to. Plus, we have a ton of shortstops in all. We could easily reload the farm system. It's all potential at the end of the day. It's not like Volpe is going to become the next Derek Jeter, like he's literally the next Derek Jeter right now. He still has to get to the big leagues, folks. I am not
hoops to jump through.
Exactly. I'm not hell bent on prospect hugging. I might have been that guy how many years ago, but no, not anymore. You're trying to win a World Series. This is the best year. As I say it again, this is the best year of the championship window. It is.
So Craig said Blake will fix Corbin. If he does that, he has got himself. Okay, he has got himself.
How many more bad contracts can we listen? That the Stein brothers are rich. We all know that, and this is not a cap league. But how many bad contracts can we honestly take on? We got Donaldson. We got what? It's essentially a reclamation project for once a all-star pitcher. We got Donaldson. We got Hicks. All these big contracts. Again, I'm not a freaking cheapskate. I'm not. But how many bad contracts? What if Pat Corb, you take on the bad contract, you do the Nationals a favor, and what if he shits you enlist Corbin as like your 3 guy? What if he shits the bed in the playoffs? What happens if that happens? Again, I just don't want to take that risk. You just take Soto. That's it. You want to take like a B or D prospect? Go ahead. Not Corbin, please.
No, I've been the furthest thing from Corbin. Jason says, I didn't want to sign Corbin years ago. Still don't want him either, but if that's what it takes to get Soto, then fuck it. Pete says, I only want Blake to work with Blake Snell if we won't get Castillo, forget Corbin. It is not worth it. I agree. Right there. I'm not. If we have to get Corbin in a deal, you take some prospects off the table. You say you want to throw this bad contract on us.
Exactly.
You're going to get some prospects off the table because that's what you're throwing at us. You're throwing
that would be
trash.
way too much.
Yeah, I mean, in that situation, it's not necessarily selling somebody a box of rocks and trying to say they're fucking diamonds, but you guys get the point. I'm not taking Corbin in any type of that deal. A lot of money a lot of money off the books next year. Tying as a free agent. Yes. Then enjoy watching Soto on the Mets. They'll take Corbin if he's shit. Just not pitch him and eat the deal like we should do. But the problem is that we have enough bad contracts, and sometimes you can't eat the deal. Like Jason, I understand what you're saying in this situation with Juan Soto, but again, when we come back to reality, the Yankees don't really have a good reputation of hiding bad contracts. And you really can't, to be honest. Like, for instance, my opinion now, Jason, you watched my channel before. And I know L.I. Yankee King knows about this since he's a Giants fan as well. Giants paid Nate Solder a lot of money, and I know it was capsized this past year, but they paid him a lot of money going into the year to play right tackle, and he sucked. He was worse than the third-round pick. And they basically put him at right tackle because A, he was a Patriot and he had the connection, and B, because he had a large contract. You can't necessarily hide that large contract forever. Same thing can be said with Aroldis Chapman and Zach Britton. You cannot hide them forever unless you just outright release them. Unless you outright release them, or it's like Jacoby Ellsbury where they're on the IL. So, I mean, Juan Soto could go to another place, but I think there's a lot of things, I'll leave it for another part of the conversation that we're going to end up going to have. Luca, our next question.
All right. So would the Yankees take on the contract to Corbin? We already went through that. Would you give up Judge for Soto? Stupid question. I say no.
No, hold on. Hold on for a second. How many current players would be in the deal? We didn't discuss that yet.
Maybe Gleyber Torres. Maybe. That's if you're not trading Peraza and you put Peraza on the team. The Yankee team, not trading him to the Reds.
Yeah, Gleyber Torres, I think, is one of those players because right now he, I believe, is, I'm not going to say a luxury, but you have depth that you can depend on. And I know LA Yankees.
You have MLB ready guys.
Yeah. Like, for example, you trade him, DJ LeMahieu was a great second baseman.
Now he's becoming a full-time guy.
Right. So if they want Gleyber Torres and that eases off a prospect or makes the deal easier, you trade him. Okay. He's only had a few years of his prime. Obviously, some bad years at shortstop. Not totally his fault because they've shoved him there. However, with that being said, if that makes the deal easier, you got to go with it. In terms of pitchers, I don't know how many they would want to be real. I don't know if their system is more proficient in position players or pitchers, but I know they have some good pitchers coming up. I haven't necessarily imagined what pitchers we would give up. Have you?
Waldichuk is one guy I'm thinking of. Like, he's close to major league ready if they need a pitcher.
So, in my opinion, I'm guessing you can agree with me, is that if they're going to look for pitchers, it would be more of prospect than proven.
Exactly.
Waldichuk, all these
eventually almost MLB ready.
Yeah. Now, let me say this, everybody. I'm going to read you two things right here. 2016 top prospects. And this is why you don't prospect hug. 2016. Number 1, Jorge Mateo. Number 2, Aaron Judge. Number 3, Gary Sanchez. Number 4, James Caprillion. Number 5, Wilkerman Garcia. Number 6, Dustin Fowler. Number 7, Domingo Acevedo. Number 8, Tyler Wade. Number 9, Robert Refsnyder. And number 10, Ian Clarkin. 2018, Gleyber Torres. Esteban Florial. Justice Sheffield. Miguel Andujar. Albert Abreu. Chance Adams. Luis Medina. Fraser Perez. Domingo Acevedo. And Thairo Estrada.
Remember, we couldn't trade Justice Sheffield for Manny Machado. But we traded him for Paxton, a mid-tier pitcher. Another brilliant move.
Yeah. But Yeah, that's what it comes down to. So we already went over current players, how much of the farm. Would you take on the contract? We already said no. Would you give up Judge for Soto? And we're talking about not necessarily Judge in a deal for Soto, but take Soto and then let Judge walk in free agency. Luca.
See, here's the thing. In my heart, I would say no. Again, I love Aaron Judge. You know, I've absorbed him as almost the captain of this team since Jeter. It would be very hard for me to absorb that, to take that in if Aaron Judge is let go and Soto was coming in. Listen, I love Juan Soto as a player. He's awesome. You know, he's not even in his prime yet. He's what, 23? And he's younger. And that's what I think the Yankees beat media will use if Juan Soto's, you know, out there for the Yankees and the Yankees get him and Aaron Judge leaves. You know, they'll say, you know, Juan Soto's younger. He might have lower demands and this, and, you know, Aaron Judge is older and all this other stuff. Beat media will try to spin that however they want. I don't care about that. It would be tough, man, because in reality, you want to keep both. If you have Soto, Stanton, and Judge, that's one fucking good outfield. Not good outfield, great outfield. But again, that goes back to the conversation we were having. Are the Yankees going to keep Soto and Judge? Because I think 2 years after this, Soto's a free agent. Now, what happens if Soto is gone in 2 years? Let's just say without a championship, and Judge is gone 2 years before then. Free agency goes to like the Mets. That's an absolute failure. It is. To me, in my opinion, you got to win a championship with at least Judge or Soto if you want both.
I'm going to garner this with two other questions.
Okay.
Maybe even one just to simplify it. Because I don't know if you gave a direct answer with giving up.
No, I don't think I did. So that's my error. It's just my emotional.
I'll make it easier for you a little bit. Would this limit other needs you can get via free agency in the trade market in terms of money and in terms of prospects? That is what you have to group, Luca, with the question of would you give up Judge in free agency for Soto via trade?
I'm sorry. I almost can't answer that question. I can't.
What are you, a politician?
Yes, I'll be as corporate as possible. Because I know, because in a way, I know the Yankees are just not going to meet the demands of Judge. Like if Soto, let's just give me a number for Soto. What he's going to garner an extension?
37.
And
for starters.
And Judge garners 40. Just putting it out there. I don't think they're doing it. So you could say, yeah. It's like I can't. I really can't decide this, Alex. I'm not joking.
You can't decide. Okay. And you can't even answer the second question either. You can't answer.
What's the second question?
The second question I asked was, would this limit other needs you could get via free agency?
Well, I think it would. They'll make it as if it would.
Hold on, time out for a second. Craig, no, the Yankees are not giving up Stanton and nobody's taking him.
Nope. Don't even try. You listen, I would have said I trade Stanton years ago, not now. I fully absorbed him last year. I fully said last year that he needs to stay on this team. The man was an all-star last year.
After Lucas said at the deadline. This year. After Lucas said at the deadline that they should find a suitor and trade Stanton because
that's what I said last year. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not a liar. I said last year that he was over the hill. He was not an all-star with the Yankees. And I said that contract, I love the player, not the contract. Trade him to the Dodgers.
That sounds really stupid.
I do sound stupid. He came up for clutch for us in the playoffs. I'm like, I don't care about the playoffs. You know, what has he done for?
I'm actually like generally laughing at that.
So stupid, but you know what? Again, I proved myself wrong. Not Aaron Judge. Giancarlo Stanton is the guy to keep as well. So I am very wrong.
Yeah, very wrong. No, but like you said in the last few years, Craig, nobody's taking him in the last few years of his deal. This
Oh.
isn't Josh Donaldson where it's only $25 million. It's more than that. Think of Bryce Harper. Say the Phillies want to trade him. You think really anyone's going to actually take him? No one took Chris Davis. And I'm not
Oh my
comparing
God,
Stan to
Chris
Davis. I'm not, by no stretch of imagination, am I comparing Stan to Chris Davis. But we're talking about guys that were over the hill, and eventually people and players will be out of their prime. We're not trading Stanton when he's like 37, 38 years old. That's not happening. Whether you want it to happen at the time in the future, or you think the Yankees should do it, or whatever the case is, it's not going to happen. You don't see that very often. I just don't think they're going to trade Stanton. That's what I think. That's what I think. I just don't believe in that. But of course, Luca never answered my question because he's a politician. Let me.
I gotta dodge the question.
Yeah, dodge the question like a politician. Would you make the deal and will you trade for him? Or actually, would you trade for him and who will make the trade for him in your prediction? And don't dodge this fucking question this time.
I'm gonna say the Dodgers are gonna trade for him. Yes, I would make the trade for him. And Pete was talking about this yesterday, I think, or the day before on Designated Spitters. You know, the reality is you can't get Soto and a Castillo or whoever, like a starting pitcher and a reliever. Because that's how the Cashmans and the Steinbrenners will play in this world. In like a scenario like they'll spend, like if this is Stevie Cohen, yes, you can get Soto and you could get, your starting pitcher, Castillo, whoever, reliever. I would definitely go after Soto, but if you're living in the Steinbrenner Cashman world, you're probably not going to do it because you're probably going to attack the needs of starting pitcher, reliever, outfielder. You're probably going to make a trade for Benintendi and get a guy like Scott Barlow, and then you're going to go out there and get a starting pitcher from Castillo. Or you could get Castillo and Naquin and then get a relief pitcher afterwards, or one of their relief pitchers.
Alex Barisha says Cashman will not make any significant moves because he thinks he has a great team. Let me ask one question.
I hope not, Alex.
Hopefully that's not true. I actually, I'm going to be fair with you guys. I don't think
I'll jump through the computer.
Okay, he'll jump through the computer. I don't think there's a lot of people who have confidence in him to make the big move or one of the bigger moves. I don't have total confidence in that yet. I know he'll make some moves, but it's just on the tier of moves. Like, is he going to get a Hap instead of a Benintendi?
The thing is
instead of a Hap?
The thing is he going to pay the price for what's needed? Listen, Benintendi, I think that's going to not cost much. Like, you could get Florial and Andujar, maybe attach prospect, like a mid-tier prospect. Fine. You're talking Castillo for a Reds team who's in rebuild mode, and you're going to have to give up a Peraza or whoever. The elite, like the big asking price is going to be my concern. Not that I wouldn't want to do it. I would. But it's just my concern with Cashman. Is he going to go to that length?
LA Yankee King with the Super Jab 199. Thank you, LA Yankee King says, would you trade for Bellinger if Soto goes to LA? Fuck no.
No.
Fuck no. No. I'll say it one more time. Fuck no.
I got a better solution. Jock Peterson.
I'm sorry. Bellinger offensively has turned into Chris Davis.
It's sad because I really liked him years ago. And another solution, Andrew Benintendi, as I mentioned. Or Brian Reynolds.
No, I agree. So I'm going to actually answer some questions, unlike Mr. Politician here.
I'm surprised I haven't seen Brad yet.
Well, maybe he's hiding. Would you give up Judge for Soto? I'm going to say no. If it means, and I could dance around this question, actually. In terms of giving up Judge for Soto, you could literally say I could keep Judge and keep Soto. That's not what the question asked. The question would ask, look, you take Soto and then let Judge walk in free agency. I could dance around the question. At the end of the day, I don't think I would give up Judge if we're actually asking the question. I wouldn't give up Judge in free agency for Soto, and I know a lot of people are going to be pissed with that opinion, but you'll agree with me more as we go into the other stuff. Would this limit the needs you can get via free agency and trade? A Soto trade would definitely, because you would have to go through the farm system again. And it's not even that. We talk about the Yankees mantra about proven players and all this other shit, right? In terms of money spending, they would probably be cheap in their ass and look for prospects. So, yes.
They'll play it that way. We know they have enough money. We know that they have the ability to go over the luxury tax. They just don't want to pay it.
Yeah. So, I think Cashman will trade for Montas and Laureano. We're going to get into trade deadline candidates in a little bit, actually, because we're not done after this. Would you make the deal, and who will trade for him? I think it's going to be the Dodgers at the end of the day. I will agree with Luke. I don't think they're going to trade in division to
the Mets.
The Mets. I don't think it's going to be the Giants. I think it will be the Dodgers because they have somewhat left in their farm system, and they have the money. They're willing to spend whatever and wherever. Would you make the deal? Yes, I would make the deal. At the end of the day, I would. Because, okay, let's break it down into two separate situations. In my fairy tale land of Alex GM, I would. If we're talking about Cashman and all that stuff, I wouldn't. Now, if the Yankees trade for Juan Soto tomorrow, would I be mad? Absolutely not. I would be thrilled because he is one of the best players in baseball. But why I say I wouldn't make the deal in a Cashman-like situation, knowing what I would be working with, is because you won't get to keep Judge and Soto in that situation, and it would be limiting what you get in the future because of the organization's stronghold on either prospects or money. That would be Judge going into free agency, Rizzo going elsewhere probably.
Correa.
You're not getting a real shortstop, and you don't have anybody in the system ready yet because Roderick Arias, I think that's his name.
Yeah.
Few years away. Other guys in the system, few years away. So if I was in the Cashman type situation, I would not. If I was in my fairy tale situation, I would. Does that mean I would be mad if the Yankees made the deal tomorrow? No, I would not. And I think the Dodgers will trade for him. You were saying.
No, I said ICAF would still be the placeholder. Look, even for cheap.
No, I agree.
Ready to move on to our favorite trade deadline targets?
Yes. Felix says Soto won't be traded at the deadline I picked.
Really?
Okay. So that's a take. That's a take.
Now, let me ask, why would you say that? Is it because the Nationals have a too high of asking price? That's probably one of the biggest reasons, if any reason. So anyways, favorite trade deadline targets. I have some least favorites also. Andrew Benintendi, obviously I've mentioned him at maximum on this podcast and also everywhere else. Luis Castillo, we saw him in person. He pitched very well against the Yankees, shut him down almost completely. Obviously, one run was that. What was it? 7 innings of 1-run ball, right? Yeah, it was. So. Carlos Rudon from the Giants, All-Star year again, back-to-back All-Star years. Obviously, a lot of people are saying in the offseason, he's injured, injury-prone, injury reasons. I'm not signing him. I said I was all there for. I said let's go after Rudon because we went after guys. Just 1 second. We went after guys like Tyone and Paxton and Kluber. Why not Rudon? Rudon's, if anything, the best pitcher out of all of them. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point now that you make it, because I wanted Rudon, and people are like, well, the injuries and this stuff like that. But also, now we have spot starters. Look what JP Sears has become. If Rudon gets injured, is JP Sears Rudon? No. Is Clark Schmidt Rudon? No. But if you can get at least half the production in a spot starter, a few spot starts.
Just to get him to – don't even be Rudon. Just get him to do the job. 5 runs – no, not 5 runs. Excuse me. 5 innings or a quality start. That's it. Then let the bullpen handle itself.
Craig says Cashman prefers to sign Soto as a free agent 2 years. Then that's not happening. If he goes to free agency, he ain't coming to the Yankees.
No, there's a huge bid. There's a huge bidding more than that happens. Dodgers, Giants, Mets. You can name all the teams. The
Orioles might be bidders by then.
They're making progress on the rebuild, but Peter Angelos will not spend. But anyway, one contender that I forgot to mention, Juan Soto going to the Padres, possibly. Machado, Tatis, and Soto. How about a three-star core, whatever you want to call it, a trio of stars on a team?
You know what would be absolutely fucked?
What?
And I don't know how many big contracts they have right now. What if Soto went to the Astros?
God, don't make me dream of that.
That would be.
I don't know if
cool.
Altuve's on a heavy contract, right?
It's possible.
You'd have to look at all their salaries. I don't think there's too many though. Like
I
they
have
can
some-
spend big, but obviously I don't think they don't have too many big contracts. That's just an assumption. I don't know for a fact.
Okay. So I'll start on Benintendi, and I know you listed your favorite candidates. I'll list mine in a second.
I didn't finish.
Okay, I'll let you go.
All right. So after Rudon, I mentioned Andrew Chafin, very good reliever from the Tigers. I think he pitched with the Cubs last year, or at least there was some sort of trade going on. Chafin, a very, very, very reliable reliever. Scott Barlow, I mentioned in the Benintendi sweepstakes, as a possible add-on because we need a reliever that's reliable. Then I said Daniel Bard. Well, I didn't say Daniel Bard. Now I just said it. Daniel Bard, closer for the Rockies. He's obviously pitched a ton of years, has a ton of experience. He's kind of had that's probably a risk, I'd say, because he's almost 40, and B, it's kind of like one of those, it's a risk because this is like his best year. Like if you have him after next year, you're probably not getting any more better years out of him. A, because he's almost 40, he's 37, and B, that's who he was. That's who he is as a player. That's almost the same thing with Martí Perez. So, you would just acquire him for this year. I don't know what contract he's on. If anybody wants to update me, please do. After that, I said Jock Peterson. I also said Ramon Laureano. Now my least favorites. Or Alex, you want to go to your favorites?
I'll go to my favorites.
All right, sure.
Daniel Bard, I believe, is on a 1-year contract.
Exactly. So you're probably getting the best year of him this year.
And the thing with Perez, though, I know you mentioned him. He's on a 1-year contract as well. So it's not like you're keeping him the next few years. But the problem you're worried about is, can he pitch in like a bigger market? Because he's been really inconsistent over the course of his career. So, we'll get into that. Astros won't get so. They have to sign Tucker. And then somebody else said they could give up Tucker. If they give up Tucker for Soto, I mean, the Astros would do that probably 99 times out of 100.
Also, Craig Smith says, Michael Fulmer as well. Yeah, he's also, he was a really good starter in the beginning of his career. His career fell off a little bit. He's been transitioning to the bullpen. He's like a setup guy, apparently. I've read that. And I'm like, you know what? If he sets up Clay Holmes, that's not a bad idea, especially for struggling with Weisgau. You could match up any way you want. You could do Fulmer 7th or Fulmer 8th and Weisgau any of those innings in between. So that would make a nice 1-2-3 punch. Almost like what we had in 2016 with Run DMC, Dellin, Miller, and Chapman. That was
Matt
fun,
Stoltz
but that
says,
only.
That was a fun time. Matt Stoltz says, "What about Soto Seattle? That's a possibility, but Seattle's weird right now. Like they're on a hot streak, but I
don't know how to measure them.
Rodriguez is a hell of a player, though.
Yeah, to say that he almost took the home run derby away from Soto is amazing. That guy is. I'm not going to go out and say he's going to be the next Alex Rodriguez, but he has a shit ton of potential. Mariners better not fuck it up like they did Ken Griffey Jr. and Felix Hernandez ruining careers in Seattle.
Well, they haven't necessarily won a championship. Remember, what was it? They won over 100 some odd games in 2001.
116. And they lost in the American League Championship Series to the Yankees.
Yeah. Man. Okay. So
just remember the Yankees won 80-something odd games in 2000 and won the championship. That's why sometimes the regular season just does not matter. Well, I'm not saying it doesn't matter. It obviously counts, but you got to count the playoffs too.
Right, and I'm going to go into something.
Because you guys, you could win 100 games, and you could lose in the first round. Don't let that team kick your ass.
It's a salient point by Luca, oddly put, but okay.
Oddly put, yes.
I would ask for J-Rod. He could be, but also
that's
I don't know
probably that's very reasonable to ask for.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to talk about this Benintendi thing, and I'm whatever thoughts you want to put on, I'll let it. But I know there's obviously the whole vaccine stuff, and he's not vaccinated, and it's Toronto and stuff. Let me put this on, and I'm not putting anything political. I'm not talking about it like that. I'm going to talk about it like this. The Yankees have 3 games left in Toronto. Judge, Rizzo, all those guys that weren't vaxxed, they're now vaxxed. Okay, they beat the Toronto Jays, last time I checked, in Toronto, 2 out of 3, maybe even 3 out of 3, if I'm not counting correctly.
I thought they had a 4-game series up there. Am I wrong? They might have.
You might want to do some research. Here's my point in this. Here's my point. The Blue Jays have fallen so far right now that it's not even funny. They're lingering between 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place. They can't make up their mind of what they want to be. A lot of underperforming players, a lot of pitchers getting injured, all this other stuff. If the Yankees could beat that team with Joey Gallo and Aaron Hicks being the way they are, they could beat them without Benintendi. If Benintendi has to go on the restricted list, be it as it may. Not because of this, that, and the other thing political, no. Because guess what? Here's the bigger point that all these idiots are not going to fucking tell you.
Let me just say, they won both series in Toronto. It was the beginning of the May and mid-June.
Okay, there's a point to put on right there. If you're concerned about, 3 games in Toronto, if Ian Happ, let's just say they trade for him because of this whole thing. If Ian Happ ends up being not as good as Andrew Benintendi is for another team, and his team makes it further, whether it be the Astros or somebody, then you're going to be looking back and saying, we should have got Benintendi. Are we really
We shouldn't have been petty.
Here's the thing. Canada does what Canada does. Once again, don't care. 3 games in the regular season, and you've done well against this team with the players you have right now. Is a 3-game set in the regular season. Meanwhile, you got Benintendi for the postseason to try to get yourselves past Houston.
Even if the Yankees play the Blue Jays in the postseason, the Yankees have the higher seed. They'll have 4 games at home. That's it. That's the championship series. Again, division series, it would be 3 games at home, 2 away. Not a big deal.
You know what? If it comes to the case they have to go to Toronto or whatever, or Toronto's in the playoffs for some reason, just make sure that it doesn't happen that you have to go to Toronto. Kick their ass in your home stadium, or kick their ass in the 3-game set so they have a lower chance of making the playoffs. Done. It's kind of like the situation where you don't have to depend on other teams to get.
Yeah, you don't want to be that team.
Take care of your own business so that you don't have to worry about other problems. That's my point. Everybody's saying, well, no Benintendi, this, that, and the other thing. They're going to accept Happ now. You know what? Here's the thing. I don't like Ian Happ, okay? Matt Riley, good friend of the show. Luke, if you want to pull up Happ's stats this year. Before this year, Ian Happ, 241 batting average, 338. I think that's slugging or on base. I want to say it's on base percentage. 467 slugging, 805 OPS, a 30.8 K percentage, and a 12% walk rate.
How much K percentage?
Stats. Huh?
How much K percentage? Please read that
30.8.
Well, you could, people are going to come out here in the casuals and say, oh, anything's better than Joey Gallo. You also got to talk about fit in this lineup. So, Happ, 274, 9 homers, 42 RBI, 6 stolen bases, 41 runs, and 364 on base percentage.
And you could also, once again, strike the iron while it's hot. But Benintendi is clearly the best option out there. If they want to go out there and say, look, we don't want problems in Toronto and get Happ, and it works out, fine. I will eat my crow. But if they do that and Benintendi goes to the Astros, and the Astros have to play the Jays too. The Astros have to play the Jays too, I think, once. But if they let him stay home, and then Kyle Tucker and the outfielders they have, and they succeed over there, and the Astros are not in the playoffs, and then they have Benintendi and we have Happ or we have nobody, and they advance to the World Series, that's one thing you could blame this organization for. But people won't talk about it. They'll talk about the other stuff. I'm just going to say that right now.
I'm also going to say, as I said on previous podcasts, Twinbill as well, Boys in the Big Apple as well, the goal of this deadline, in my opinion, whether you say starting pitching, relief pitching, or outfielder help, is to try to put as less blame as possible on yourself. Like, get the best guys possible. Don't let the best guys go elsewhere in your league, in your conference, as, in other sports would call it. Don't let anybody else, don't let the best go anywhere else in the American League. Don't let Benintendi go to the Astros. If Castillo goes to the Astros, we're finished. we're finishing the playoffs. That's how I see it. It's true. Tell me I'm wrong, but again, it's the prevalent to the point. Do not let the best go elsewhere because of some petty reason. If you're serious about a playoff run in a World Series, get the best players available on the market.
And you know what? Here's the thing, too. If you don't like Benintendi's vax status and you want to get the best, go out and get Juan Soto.
Yeah.
You want to get the best, and you could look into the advanced scouting and all this stuff. And if they're smart enough to recognize, okay, well, Ian Happ is having an anomaly season, and you have Benintendi, okay, we don't like his vax status.
Well, Alex, can I change your wording there? It's actually not an anomaly season anymore. It's called an outlier year.
Okay, outlier, whatever the fuck. Okay, what if the staff recognizes, in terms of the nerds and all that stuff? Okay, we don't like Benintendi's vax status. We're out on him. Ian Happ is having an outlier season, but we don't know if he's going to continue this trend. So do we ride the hot iron with him or go with Soto, who's one of the best players in baseball? There I'd go with Juan Soto. I mean, but once again, that's something I don't consider the Yankees doing, but if it happens, it happens.
But Cashman could also say, am I going to win against the teams? Am I going to win the bidding war? And I think they would. The Yankees have a very good farm system. So do the Dodgers, but I'm not sure about the Mets because I can't answer that. They'll probably ask for Francisco Alvarez, very good catcher prospect, Ronnie Mauricio, all these Brett Beatty, all these prospects. I know some prospects from the Mets. The Yankees have the best offer in terms of like almost MLB ready now prospects. You got Waldichuk, you got Volpe's almost around the corner. Peraza. I did that in a heartbeat, bro.
Yeah, and goes to the main point that all these players are in their prime. Soto is peaking, about to be in his prime. But if you get him and Judge on the same team without worrying about money for the moment and you win the World Series this year, hopefully it's not an outlier and you could continue a dynasty rather than just have 1 year like the Washington Nationals.
Right.
But some other players that I'm in favor for. Luis Castillo, obviously. I mean, I saw him pitch live, dominant. Was going to like 110, 120
his changeup is filthy.
Yep. Going to 110, 120 pitches.
You can take the workload.
Great pitcher. I would take him over a lot of the rotation. We don't know what Sevy's going to do. He could start game 2 of a series. He could start game 3 possibly. Scott Barlow, Andrew Chafin, David Robertson, relievers that the Yankees need. And yes, Robertson's like 30-something. Doesn't necessarily have
to
be
for this
multi-year thing. You were saying?
I was saying use him as a rental, as you said.
Use him as a rental. Andrew Chafin, I think they got a few years with him. Take him. Take the control. He's not going to cost much. Scott Barlow, probably the same situation. Adam Frazier, I know a lot of people are down on him, but if you think about it, you don't have to make that your move. You could make it as a secondary move. Okay, we trade for Soto or we trade for Benintendi or Happ, whatever. You take him, you get more depth on the team other than Marwin Gonzalez, other than Gleyber Torres and all these other cats. Adam Frazier could play second base. He could also play the outfield. So you don't have to suffer with Hicks all the time. But I don't know that that's realistic. Michael Fulmer, we talked about him. Martin Perez, he's having an outlier season to this point. But if you want to continue that trend and he comes to New York and pitches well, nobody's going to look back on it. And I want to ask you something before we go into our least favorites. Wilson Contreras, thoughts on the whole speculation?
Our buddies at NyynewsTV, especially Joe, he's actually a big proponent of Contreras. I see Contreras as more of an add-on, obviously. Would I be in favor of it? Yes. Would I be against it? No, obviously not. But would I be upset if we didn't get him? Not exactly. Like he's more of that, to me, he's more of that add-on piece. I'm fine with Trevino starting. Obviously, Higashioka sucks as a backup catcher. He'd be gone in a Contreras deal probably, but it's more of an add-on for me.
Yeah, I see it as a not an accessory, but it's more as what the hell's the word you use? Luxury. It's a luxury. You can just add it on. It's not
unless you want to bang it all out in one shot where you get one trade and you do Happ, Contreras, Robertson. Obviously, you need a starter, But like one trade to almost bang it all out, I'd absolutely be for it. See, and even with that, if Hendricks was having a good year, I'd trade for him. He's not, unfortunately, and he's injured as well.
I mean, they did that trade with another Chicago team a few years ago. It was Canely they got. It was Robertson they got. It was Todd Frazier they got. And they gave up Rutherford, Ian Clarkin, Tyler Clippard. I'm forgetting one. They traded another guy. Maybe they didn't, but those are some guys they gave up. Luca's probably doing the research right now. But Contreras is a luxury. If you want to bang it out in a trade, go ahead and bang it out in trade. I don't have a problem with that. I'm going to go into my least favorite before Luca goes into his.
Tito Polo, by the way.
Tito Polo. Okay. Ian Happ, I'm not so keen on, obviously. He's having an outlier year this year, and sure, it could be good for this year, but we need a left fielder / outfielder for years to continue. And I don't know if he could be that guy year after year after year.
Also contact.
Contact, yes, and where Benintendi has shown more of that in his career. Yeah, obviously we explained the stats earlier. Michael Taylor, you could add as another move, but I don't feel as comfortable with it because that's been in recent talks. And if you're going to get an outfielder, get one of the top guys. Don't get some, under the radar.
Taylor's an add-on.
Yeah, he's an add-on. If you want Taylor and Benintendi, Taylor's a fourth outfielder, there's a speed bat, whatever. But I just don't see the reason for it. And Montas, I'm worried a little bit about his injury stuff. Obviously, we talk about spot starters with JP Sears and Clark Schmidt.
Is he going to be healthy by the deadline is my question.
If he's not healthy by the deadline, I mean, you have to be a little concerned. You have to be a little concerned if you're fishing for him. So that's kind of my thoughts there. Luca, your least favorite.
All right, so I said Ian Happ like you. Cole Calhoun was brought up as an option. I was before the show today. I was looking up trade deadline options for every team. And not every team like the best candidates, the targets to be available. Cole Calhoun was mentioned as an outfielder. He's meh to me. He's mid tier. He's not what we need. Wilson Contreras, I said I prefaced why I don't think we need him. He's not much of a least favorite. I just put him down, to explain myself. He's not much yet. Not a least favorite, but more of a luxury, as you said. And David Peralta, a lot of people have brought up his name in conversation. I think that, a lot of people were talking about Carson Kelly before the year, or whoever the catcher is for the D-backs, Zach Gallen. And Peralta, I'm just very meh with. He's not very good, in my opinion. He's very meh. Yeah,
I mean, I'm just not a fan of his. Someone said Gavin Lux or Gleyber Torres. I think it would take Torres right now. Because the season he's having, and I think the fact that he's providing power alongside his defense compared to Gavin Lux, who's contact hitting, and we already have enough in the infield. I'll take Gleyber Torres for right now. Gavin Lux, what was I going to say? Last year hit 242, 7 home runs, 46 ribbies, and then the year before in 19 games. And he's only played over 100 games once. He'll probably do it again, but. I would just go with Gleyber Torres for the moment. Luca, if you want to explain, just to wrap up the show, a little bit of what happened last Thursday.
Let me ask, is Joe in the chat? I'll explain it regardless.
I don't believe he is.
Damn. So, anyways, we were at the game, obviously, it was Thursday, it was Friday. It was Friday, right?
No, I believe it was Thursday.
Oh, it was Thursday. All right. So I'm getting all my dates mixed up. Anyway, so, we were there to see Luis Castillo pitch against the Yankees. It was obviously like a little scouting report, as we call it. So our party of 7 was there. Joe's girlfriend, Donald, the 2 of us, and our 2 friends, Matt and his brother. So, we were there, came a little late, unfortunately, because the trains and at the Yankees Stadium little walkway entrance to the stadium is stupid because it turns you in 7 different directions. It was like a maze. And we were complaining about it too, but anyways, besides the point. Get there around game time. Joe starts his chants, and then there's this one Karen who's up front, 2 rows in front of us with her kids and her husband. So, what did it start with? It started with Joe Gallaton, right? And then she goes, can you calm it down? Can you be a little quieter? Telling him to, lower his voice. I'm just mystified. I'm stupefied by that. I'm like, we ran into this person we ran into one of these morons at the stadium, at Yankee Stadium in left field. Have they not seen what's going on before? But again, not knowing any history or whatever, I let it go. So then Joe does. I'm not going to say that what specifically Joe told Tommy to do as a joke, but he tells him to do that. It was pretty. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not expletive. It's not. I'll say it this: rated R. It was very rated R. He didn't curse. So, and then she goes, "Oh, come on now," like not kind of a knock it off fashion. So, better like an inning later or whatever, half inning later, she goes up the steps. She comes back down the steps. Next, all right.
I know why. See, here's the thing. Something happened. I think the umpire didn't call something a strike. And Joey Gallo, but Joe was cursing out the umpire. And the little two brats of hers thought he was cursing out Joey Gallo. So they told Karen, and Karen told security.
Fuck's sake.
So that's when she went up, and you could continue the story.
So she went up, she came back down. Next thing you know, stadium security and a police officer come to our section at our row, at the end of the row. So, Joe and that security guard have that little exchange. And the security guard becomes a little bit of an asshole. He says, are you acting like a tough guy? And Joe's like, no, I'm not acting like a tough guy. So they go up the steps. It was the security guard, the police officer, Joe, and his girlfriend. I originally thought they got kicked out of the game. Alex texted Pete, Joe's been kicked out. So I said, you know what? If Joe does not come back here and he texts us that he was kicked out of the game, I'm walking the frick out of the stadium. I'm like, you know what? This is bullshit. I'm not letting some Karen ruin my experience the way I want to have fun at a baseball game, because she's probably from out of state. She probably is a casual fan of the Yankees. There's no idea what the hell's going on in left field. I absolutely do not want my game experience ruined by some moron. So Joe comes back, and and it was a whole misunderstanding. They found no reason to throw him out. He comes back. We're all celebrating. People were asking around, like, what happened, all this different stuff. So we go into it, and we started taunting the living shit out of the Karen. She didn't have the balls to say anything to us. So Alex, she kept
looking back.
She took a picture of Joe like a complete moron, like a complete sneak.
And Joe's like, "Yep, at us, NyynewsTV," which I found funny. And then what was I gonna say? Tyler's right, fucking Karen. And then what was I gonna say? Our friend Matt, who will be attending Somerset with us on Sunday, he said something with the F word, and Joe's like, "Watch your mouth. This kid's here. This is Disney World." I laughed and I hit it. I'm like, "Oh my God, Joe, what are you doing?"
And then Donald's like, "Oh, for fuck's sake," or something. It's like, "Oh, for frick's sake." I should be saying that.
And then I said, "Oh, shucks." I mean, it seems funny over here, but trust me, it was a lot funnier in person.
I kept putting my head in my shirt. I was like, "Oh no, we're gonna get kicked out, aren't we?" But I was laughing too, especially with Matt next to me.
Yeah, I mean, we were having a fun time, and she's lucky that she didn't get in front of Joe or with Joe at all after, because he would have told her that she was a see you next Tuesday.
Yes.
And he had a lot of stuff to say outside of the stadium, to me at least, in our group about her. But next time Karen, record us and mention us, NyynewsTV. So that was the incident that happened. Security guard was a tough guy. That he was a nice guy to Joe, which was putting on an act for little Miss Karen. But that was the story. And you guys, the ones who came to the stadium, should know what Joe is about. He's a fun guy to be around. And here's the thing: if the husband asked her, "Okay, listen, look, we got kids around, I love your shtick, but you got to calm it down for the kids," I would say, okay. If Joe started going on after that, I'd be like, "Joe, he kind of told you nicely right there." But nothing was said. She decided to be a little bitch about it. And then she went to security, and most of our section loved Joe. I mean,
nobody complained.
Him fist bumps, so we were clapping when he came back. So I mean, that was basically the story of the story of the living Karen on the night.
Let me just say this before we end off. Imagine being DFA'd in 2 seasons at Dallas Keuchel. twice in a season. Already DFA'd by the Diamondbacks.
That's sad. That's very sad. And the Diamondbacks are trash. But Luca, final thoughts.
Very exciting show, especially a night session. Happy that everybody came out, who did and who didn't. Check us out, obviously, on Apple Podcasts. We'll be at Somerset this Sunday, obviously, to see the Somerset Patriots live, with a bunch of other accolades and stuff to do. We'll be there early. Appreciate you guys.
Joe's back. He says, I told you guys after the game, if she or the husband spoke to me nicely, I would have been a gentleman. Yeah. No, I mean, there's no doubt about that. I just mentioned that. I mean, of course, OBS is a little behind and stuff like that. But yeah, if they would have been nice about it, you would have been nice about it. You would have been a gentleman. Right. But she decided to be a see you next Tuesday. And obviously that
you know what that spells, so we're gonna leave it there. We're not gonna pronounce it.
Luca, your final thoughts, if you have anything, if you said them already.
I pretty much said it. Guys, check us out, Apple Podcasts, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, comment, like, subscribe, do the good stuff, obviously. We'll obviously said we'll be on Sunday we'll be in Somerset on Sunday. Check us out. We'll see you guys there if you come. Somerset Patriots are facing who?
I have no idea.
Wow, I don't even know either. I'm embarrassed. Yeah, usually I check this out, but doesn't matter. So, guys, appreciate the support. Love you guys as always.
CWE Bedside says Soto chances if the Yankees give up the prospects and they're aggressive. I think it'll happen, but I think he's going to go to the Dodgers or another team. I just think it's going to be somebody else. So I'm going to quickly look up Somerset Patriots. See who are versing this series. Maybe somebody will answer before me. But this series, if MILB will load, of course, we'll be seeing Anthony Volpe and the rest of the crew there. You guys look like brothers.
Yes.
We might be. We might be. And I don't know why the page is buffering. Maybe because I have 20 tabs open. God, this is so weird. Okay. Somerset Patriots schedule. July, they are versing. What says they?
20th. Well, Craig Smith says Lehigh, I think. Lehigh's AAA. Lehigh's AAA. This is AA. Reading. The Reading Fighting Phils.
And they have a weekend series. It's not even like, it's
the 6-game sets.
Break. Yeah, but it's All-Star break. So we appreciate you guys for coming in. Like, comment, subscribe, notification bell, turn it on. We'll be at Somerset. Once again, the Reading Fighting Phils will be versing the Somerset Patriots. If you can make it, that would be great. We've had a fun time on this podcast, almost 2 hours going. Sub to my channel, Big Blue in the Bronx. We'll be doing some exciting stuff. If you're a Giants fan or a Jet fan and you're looking for training camp tickets, we're going to be doing a big giveaway starting on Saturday, and we'll be going through August with giveaways. So, appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will see you next time. Peace.